Wow, wow, wow. This is exactly the one outcome that I did not expect to happen in this US Open 2021 final, especially between these two. And Medvedev has pulled off an unbelievable upset and shocked the world by beating Novak Djokovic in straight sets 6-4, 6-4, 6-4. And I tell you what, he played some really phenomenal tennis, really did. Before we get into the nitty gritty, a little bit about how he won, where it was won and lost, and also obviously what this means in terms of numbers, in terms of history and significance. First of all, thank you everyone who joined the live stream. It was fantastic to have everyone on. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, really do appreciate it. And of course, it's been a fantastic US Open. We will be doing a proper review and roundup, and hopefully we have got some people lined up. Fingers crossed, collabs with other channels, maybe even not just one, maybe two, or potentially even three. We shall see. But yeah, we will be doing those, so keep an eye out for those as well. And of course, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Right, let's get straight into this. So obviously, Novak Djokovic was attempting to become the first person since Rod Laver yonks ago to win the Grand Slams. So that's winning all four Grand Slams in a year. So he's won four in a row before. I think it was 2015 and 2016. He won Wimbledon, US Open, Australian Open, and the French, but has never won all four in a calendar year. And Roger and Rafa have never been in that position where they've won the first three. They've always won three in a year, but they've lost a Grand Slam earlier in the year when they won the US Open. So it was just they never had that chance. So this was a golden opportunity, no pun intended, considering obviously Novak Djokovic was going for the Golden Slam and the gold medal. Please don't hate me. But yeah, no pun intended, but literally it was a fantastic opportunity, and probably, in my opinion, the only opportunity he will have in his career to pull off what would have been a absolutely incredible year. I mean, we're talking 27 Grand Slam matches in a row won this year. He just fell short of that 28 to do it. And, obviously we'll talk a little bit about the feats of Novak Djokovic. It's been an incredible year for him. I don't think we need to be doom and gloom about it because, there's a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He said after that it was a relief for the match to be over. He said there's been a lot of pressure building on his shoulders and the media, etc. And I think that to me signified that he was feeling it, and that it was not surprising. And I just had a feeling that it might come to a head or come to the surface. And I thought maybe against Zverev it would, but it didn't. It came in this final, and that's understandable. Look, we call him the Bionic Man and Mr. Elastic, and he is, for the most part, one of these incredibly mentally tough players, and one of the most mentally tough players I think ever in the history of tennis. But this was groundbreaking. It would have been physically, mentally, I'm sure for him spiritually, just extremely taxing throughout the whole year. There's been talks about it for a number of months now. So it's all leading up to this, and the pressure, unfortunately, was a bit too much. And I think we've got to give a lot of credit to Medvedev. He played a phenomenal match, I thought, for the most part. Anyway, it wasn't his optimum level, I don't think, but it was there or thereabouts for large spots of the final. So I think he did really well to put behind him that Australian Open defeat to Novak earlier in the year, where they met, of course, as well, and he got completely destroyed in straight sets, and that was almost, an indication, and in some people's eyes, that look, these guys are not going to be able to break through this year. Novak is too strong, and maybe Rafa, etc. And it's Medvedev just wasn't ready at the time. But however many months later, he's done it and has done it in fashion. To be honest with you, a very impressive tournament, only dropping one set all tournament as well. So has to be said, it was an extremely impressive tournament from the Russian. Let's go into the stats, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about where it was kind of won and lost as well, and some of the tendencies I saw. So for those of you watching, you would have known as well, especially on the watch along, what some of the damning stats were. I mean, one of the stats that stands out a lot is the ace count. I mean, 16 aces to sixes. There's a big disparity there. Novak, as we know, has got a much improved first serve and second serve, to be honest with you, and spot serves very effectively nowadays. But Medvedev served phenomenally well. He genuinely did. And he gets through some of his games so quickly. One game was 47 seconds. So impressive from the Russian. And I genuinely, when he's serving like that, it is so difficult to play him because he's such a good returner as well. Double faults, 9 for him. I mean, it has to be said that I think it was 3 of them were in games where he was serving for the match, 2 in a row as well. After the first match point, he served a double fault. Then the crowd cheered. That wouldn't have helped because then he served another double fault. They obviously cheered because they wanted to see 5 sets. I don't think they were cheering for Novak throughout. I could be mistaken. I didn't have the volume on, but from what people were saying in the chat, etc. But I thought that was a little bit disrespectful to Medvedev. It's his first ever match point, etc. I mean, why cheer his double fault? It just, and then that's what led to the second one. The first one is not the crowd's fault. Second one, though, like it's not surprising, is it? But anyways, did well in the end to recover. First serve percentage, pretty much the same for both, I would say. Obviously, slightly more for Medvedev, but it is what it is. First serve points won, though, 80%, so same for both. But where we can see the disparity, second serve points won, that's really, really key for me. 58% to 40%, that's a big difference. And then winners and unforced errors, I mean, we look at this, 27 winners to 38 unforced errors for Novak. So a lot more unforced errors, 11 more than winners. Winners, 38 for Medvedev. So as many winners as unforced errors for Novak, and unforced errors, 31. So that was impressive for me. And of course, if we look as well at the net points, because I'm always interested to see about the net points, but this has covered Medvedev covering a lot more, and that's not surprising. And the reason why is because if you look at the net points, he only came to the net 12 times. Novak 47, so nearly 4 times the amount. And I actually thought it was the right play because, from the start, he just did not look like he was hitting the ball as cleanly and as crisply as we have seen in spots in the US Open. I think whether he was tight, whether he wasn't feeling great, I don't know. But I think mentally, it definitely was getting to him. And he struggled. He really, really struggled throughout this whole final, and it wasn't the Novak that you would have expected, the Novak that you would have been used to if you just turned on this match and you watched through it. You would have thought Medvedev is the number one, and Medvedev is the one who's won 3 out of the 4 slams this year. But then the caveat is that with Novak, of course, it's a lot. It's a lot in terms of he's won 3 Grand Slams. And let's be honest, this US Open, apart from maybe the Zverev match where in spurts he played really good tennis, I don't think he's played anywhere near his best. And I reckon he's got to the final playing his B-level tennis. And he won Wimbledon playing his B-level tennis. He did. And that just shows how good this guy is, to be honest with you. And I feel like the pressure of the Grand Slam was felt in Wimbledon, and it's kind of ricocheted and snowballed, even into the US Open. That's exactly what happened here. We saw more double faults than we've seen normally. I mean, 3 double faults to be fair, but when the double faults came, I think were key. I think one was on a was on a break point. That's key, right? And if we look at break points saved, etc., so I think that's quite an interesting fact. So only 50% for Novak, which, to be honest with you, is pretty unlike him. He'd normally have a higher percentage of breakpoints saved, and for Medvedev, 5 out of 6. So, a clear advantage for Medvedev there. A lot stronger in breakpoint opportunities. Sorry, in stopping the breakpoints, from the opposition. And normally that's Novak because he's just normally that solid and that good when it comes to being resilient. He is Mr. Resilient, Novak, and Mr. Gritty and Mr. Determination. Mr. Determined, even. Mr. Determination. So I think, look, it's not a surprise, but obviously the scoreline is, I actually personally went for Djokovic in 5, although my prediction, I think, for the start of the tournament was Zverev to win. Obviously, he had a chance in the semi-final. He took it to a final set, didn't take the momentum from the fourth set, and then just crumbled really in that fifth set. And Medvedev here, I think he looked okay against Van der Zandt, but looked a lot better against FA. And then here, it's one of those things that when I watch this match, and I've said this on other streams, when Brooksby, for example, was managing to maneuver Novak around for about a set, it was like, hold on, this is weird, because I've never in my life, apart from Novak playing Rafa on clay, been able to say someone has been able to maneuver and play better from the baseline than Novak. They've been able to, outmaneuver him from the baseline, which just sounds absurd. It really does. Medvedev can do that, and he showed that today. And yes, Novak wasn't playing his best level, but he really did maneuver Novak around, and he managed to get into points where he went from neutral to a very positive position in the rallies very quickly. The forehand down the line was really impressive. I thought it was a fixture really of the Medvedev tactics throughout the match, and he executed it to absolute perfection. Djokovic's forehand was not firing whatsoever. A lot of miscues in the first set, and then from there on, I just think he was netting a lot of backhands. We didn't see that trademark backhand on the line that is so good and has been for a number of years. And for Medvedev, he was just, for the most part, crunching the ball on both sides. Obviously has fantastic fitness and defensive capabilities as well, and was serving like an absolute demon. So Novak was struggling a little bit with the first serve as well in patches, and the second serve wasn't being as potent as it normally was. On top of that, for the returns, he was struggling a bit on the returns. I don't feel like he was getting the returns as deep as we are used and accustomed to seeing him, getting them. So I just think overall it was a very underwhelming performance from Novak, but it's not one that you can blame him for, because he's had an unbelievable year and he's allowed a bad day at the office, and that's what this was. It's just because it was such a fantastic opportunity, and it was the last step this year. That obviously in the last hurdle that a lot of people will talk about it, but Novak Djokovic obviously below par, and Medvedev just played a very good level, and it was weird though to see Djokovic almost just not crumble, but succumb to the pressure that Medvedev was putting him under. And mentally, I thought Medvedev had the edge, which is weird because Novak is normally the guy who is mentally, he is the one who has the mental edge for the most part. So that was weird. Djokovic obviously broke a racket as well after, I think it was. So at the, what was it? It was in the second set. Novak had some break points early doors, I think it was, and Medvedev managed to save them. I think he actually saved them from 40-15 down, and he went on to save the break points there and hold. And Novak was so frustrated, and he smashed his racket up. And then Medvedev actually had break points the next game, I think it was, and it shows the turnaround. Novak did, I think, in the end, he definitely did actually manage to hold. But then Medvedev obviously broke later on in the set. And I think mentally he was just frustrated. He was not happy with the situation. He knew he wasn't playing his best tennis. He knew the nerves were there, and he was tight throughout the whole match. And Medvedev took advantage of that. He really did. He was just on his game. He went through the games quickly. He did no fuss. Didn't, sometimes he riles himself up and picks something out, and then it really affects him, and he gets flustered, and then he struggles, and it does affect his tennis. He didn't. He just got on with it. Really impressive, and I was extremely impressed to see him after having an opportunity to serve it out at 5-2, managed to serve it out at 6-4, at 5-4, sorry, even. And I thought he was good. I thought he was very, very good. A couple of lucky net chords for him. But sometimes you need that luck to win a Grand Slam, and it's no surprise that he was tight on the match points and double faulted. It's his first ever time having match points, in a Grand Slam. So I was really impressed, and obviously this is for him a third time of asking. Losing to Novak earlier in Australia this year, and then obviously in 2019 in the US Open, losing to Nadal. So this is big time for him. really impressive performance from the Russian, and he still is going to be number 2 in the rankings. But he'll be looking to the ATP World Tour Finals, I'm sure. Interesting to see what Novak does after this. Obviously, he said that he was relieved. He said that there was a lot of pressure on him. Before the match, there were some red flags for me. I think the one red flag that I had actually was him saying that he wanted to play it like it was his last ever match. And that to me was just added pressure that he didn't need to put on himself. He didn't need to put on himself. And he should have just said, I'm just going to play like any other match. And I thought that was just weird for me, for him to say that. And then actually in the back of my mind, I thought, no, it's fine. He's a mental giant. It won't affect him, but I think it did. I genuinely think it did. I think he had a certain expectations, and as soon as it wasn't going his way, he kind of went and spiraled mentally. I think that's what happened, to be honest with you. And Medvedev took advantage of it. Look, the 3 sets are still pretty tight, 6-4, 6-4, 6-4, but the fact that Medvedev beat him in straight sets is absurd. Like, it's something that I didn't think was a possibility. So a very impressive performance, and I'm sure the first of many for Medvedev. He looks very, very impressive on the hard courts. He looks imperious for sure when he's on song, especially when he's serving well. It's incredible to watch. So let's see how he does at the Aussie Open, because he will go into that one of the favourites, no doubt, as well. And lots to look forward to, obviously, for the rest of the year. Of course, as I said, we will be doing comprehensive reviews and collabs, etc., rounding up the US Open for the men's and singles. But thank you very much, guys, for tuning in. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Medvedev wins his first ever Grand Slam title. Djokovic, unfortunately, not being able to make history in this tournament, but has definitely been phenomenal in this year. I mean, he's not going to be able to get that 21st slam and get ahead of Roger and Rafa yet. They will all be on 20 slams come the Australian Open. That's if all 3 compete. Hopefully at least 2 do, Novak and Rafa, but we shall see. But Medvedev will be one of those now main threats to stop them, especially on the hard courts. So let's see. But I'm thinking this is the start of a transition. We're not there yet, but this is the start of a transition where I think we're going to see more Grand Slam winners than just the regular Nadal and Djokovic, and of course Federer before that. Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe and well, and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you very